Welcome, deep divers. Ready to plunge into some really fascinating data. It might just change how you think about everyday safety.
Definitely.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into something that feels, well, incredibly familiar from the last few years,
Mhm.
but it actually has this hidden, vibrant layer of data to explore. We're talking about the global COVID-19 personal protective equipment market. PPE.
That's right.
We've got a detailed market forecast report here. It's our source material. And our mission really is to unpack these complex numbers.
Yeah, see what's really going on.
Exactly. Identify the key trends and truly understand the maybe surprising longevity and growth of this market. You're going to see how these numbers reflect broader societal shifts, ongoing health considerations,
Mhm.
things that impact you directly.
Absolutely. PPE was, of course, critical during the pandemic. I mean, a frontline defense.
Yeah.
But what's truly compelling now is how this market's trajectory tells a story beyond just that immediate crisis.
Right.
Analyzing these figures, it gives us crucial insights into, say, global health preparedness, economic shifts, and how the whole landscape of everyday safety is quietly evolving around us.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's start with the big picture, the global growth
A
trends.
place to start.
So our source material, this market forecast report, it tells us the global PPE market, specifically the COVID-19 related stuff, generated over $16.4 billion in 2021.
16.4 billion. That's a substantial base.
It is, and it's not stopping there. It's expected to grow to nearly $18.5 billion by 2025.
Okay.
And then looking further out, projected to reach an impressive $23 billion by 2033.
Wow, 23 billion.
Yeah. And all this with a remarkably steady compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of 2.837%.
And that consistent growth, that 2.837% CAGR, that's a key observation here.
Right.
What's so striking, like you said, is it's for COVID-19 PPE specifically. Yet the demand is sustained. It's not just a one-off pandemic peak.
That's sticking around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This strongly indicates, an enduring shift, maybe in public health practices, maybe consumer behavior, maybe both. It suggests the market isn't just reacting anymore, it's found a permanent place, perhaps, in our collective awareness.
Interesting.
And this raises a big question, doesn't it? Are we actually seeing a future where, I don't know, masks become as common as carrying hand sanitizer? Or where businesses integrate advanced air filtration as just the new standard? The
Right.
data seems to point towards these kinds of systemic changes.
That's a powerful implication, yeah. But is this growth happening everywhere equally, or are there regional hotspots really driving this trend?
Good question. The distribution matters.
Let's turn to the regional dynamics, because where this growth is happening tells another compelling story. The report highlights Asia-Pacific as the largest regional market. By far, actually.
Dominant.
It was already at nearly $8 billion back in 2021, projected to hit over $9 billion in 2025, and then soar to almost $11.7 billion by 2033.
11.7 billion.
Yeah, that's roughly a 50% increase over the decade. Makes it the undisputed leader.
And if you dive deeper into those Asia-Pacific figures, it's clear how these regional powerhouses drive so much of the global market. Take China.
Okay.
It led the region with close to $2.8 billion in 2021, and it's projected to reach over $4.1 billion by 2033. That's nearly a 50% increase just on its own.
Huge growth there.
And India, too, shows really rapid growth, moving from just under $950 million in 2021 to over $1.5 billion by 2033. That suggests a pretty fast expansion of health awareness and maybe infrastructure spending.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Japan, too, is a steady contributor, expected to reach over $1.6 billion by 2033. So it really shows us a region that's kind of deeply investing in long-term health security.
Okay, so Asia Pacific is clearly the giant. Now, let's pivot to North America. The market here also plays a significant role, though maybe a different kind of growth story.
Right, different dynamics.
Its overall market was over $3.3 billion in 2021, growing to nearly $3.7 billion in 2025, and projected to reach over $4.2 billion by 2033.
Still significant numbers.
Definitely. And within that, the United States takes the clear lead. It goes from nearly $3 billion in 2021 to over $3.6 billion projected for 2033.
Okay.
We also see Canada and Mexico showing steady, consistent increases too. Canada around $270 million going up to $382 million. Mexico from $182 million up to $238 million over that period.
Yeah, and that stable, significant contribution from North America, it kind of aligns with what you'd expect, right? Established healthcare infrastructures, a pretty robust, mature awareness of public health measures already in place.
So less explosive growth, more ingrained demand.
Exactly. It seems to be more about consistent demand from both the healthcare systems and probably the general public as well.
Got it. And what about Europe? How does it stack up?
Well, Europe's market was valued at just under $3 billion in 2021.
Okay, similar to North America initially.
Pretty close, yeah. It's forecast to reach over $3.2 billion in 2025 and close to $4 billion by 2033.
And specific countries.
Looking at the specifics, Germany is a major player, growing from nearly $600 million in 2021 to over $830 million projected by 2033.
Okay.
The United Kingdom follows, heading towards $650 million, France towards $460 million.
Right.
And you even see countries like Italy and Spain showing strong contributions. Italy projected over $360 million, Spain over $400 million respectively by 2033. It really underscores a broad adoption across the continent. We could even mention smaller markets like, say, Luxembourg, for contrast, moving from around $42 million to nearly $50 million. Shows the spread.
So a diverse picture in Europe.
Very much so.
Uh-huh.
The European market's diversity is clear in these numbers. You see various countries, different scales, perhaps different public health approaches, but all contributing to this overall growth. It indicates a broad acceptance, a broad adoption of PPE.
And that continued demand even in these established economies.
It points to a lasting change, I think, in both consumer habits and institutional behavior. It's not just fading away.
Okay, rounding out the globe then. We see significant, though smaller, markets in South America, the Middle East, and Africa.
Important to cover those too.
South America's market, it grew from under $1 billion in 2021, projected over $1.4 billion by 2033. Brazil and Argentina seem to be leading the way there. Brazil from around $390 million to $558 million. Argentina, $162 million to $251 million.
Right.
Then the Middle East sees its market rise from about $725 million to over $1 billion by 2033, led by Saudi Arabia and Turkey.
Oh.
And finally, Africa. Its market stands at over $460 million in 2021, expected to grow to nearly $660 million by 2033, with South Africa and Nigeria as key contributors there. South Africa moving from $189 million to $287 million.
Yeah, and if we try to connect all these regional pieces back to the bigger picture.
What does it tell us?
Well, this global distribution of PPE demand, it really reveals how global health awareness, maybe investment too, are reshaping markets, even in areas that were previously perhaps less focused on these specific products.
So it's truly global now.
It seems to be. It's like a testament to the idea that health preparedness is now a worldwide concern. It's influencing consumer behavior, institutional purchasing across really diverse economies and healthcare systems. The data here, it really illustrates that this isn't just a localized thing, but a pretty pervasive shift in how societies approach public health.
Okay, let's really unpack this then.
Okay.
What are the real implications? For you listening, what does all this mean? We've seen this sustained growth, like you said, in a market originally kicked off by a specific crisis. What's the most surprising or maybe the most impactful takeaway you think people should grasp from this data?
I think the key thing is that the market's continued expansion isn't just about, lingering COVID-19 demand. That's part of it, sure.
Right.
But it really points to something more fundamental, an enduring shift in how societies view health threats, how they prepare for them.
So it's changed our baseline.
It seems like it. And this raises that important question again. Are we witnessing a permanent sort of elevation in global health security, driven by both what consumers want and what institutions are buying? And this knowledge is incredibly relevant to you listening, whether you're trying to understand global economics or anticipate future public health trends, or maybe just make informed choices about your own personal preparedness.
Yeah.
It tells us that safety measures, the ones we saw as temporary responses maybe, they might actually be integrating into our daily lives, our long-term planning, fundamentally altering how we perceive health risks and precautions.
So wrapping this up then, the core idea is that the global COVID-19 PPE market, it wasn't just a temporary boom. Far from it. It's projected for significant, sustained growth over the next decade.
Exactly.
And this consistent expansion across all these continents we looked at, it's actually quite surprising when you think about it, speaks volumes about the lasting impact of the pandemic.
Indeed. I think it suggests that these numbers, they're indicative of a collective learning process, maybe from the pandemic.
Interesting way to put it.
We seem to be seeing a shift towards a more health-conscious, perhaps more prepared global community, where Preventative measures, protective equipment, they're becoming more standard rather than exceptional.
Right.
It implies a kind of broader societal resilience, maybe, as these tools become part of our everyday toolkit for navigating, well, a complex world.
That brings us to a final provocative thought for you to consider. Given the sustained growth forecasts we've been talking about, how might the widespread availability and the increased use of PPE actually change our public spaces,
Hmm.
our workplace norms, even our personal health habits in the years to come? And this is regardless of future pandemics.
Yeah, will a casual mask just become as common as grabbing a raincoat?
Or will our expectations for public cleanliness just rise to a whole new level permanently, something to chew on? Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a topic that, well, for many of us, became a sudden, critical part of daily life, of the personal protective equipment market, PPE,
That's right.
specifically in the wake of COVID-19. Our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack its core growth dynamics, the evolving challenges it faces, and also the forward-looking trends that are shaking things up.
Good boy.
And critically, all the insights we're sharing with you today, they're sourced directly from cognitive market research. So get ready. We're exploring a market that went from relatively niche to, well, totally essential almost overnight,
Yeah, absolutely indispensable.
and how it continues to reinvent itself.
It's a truly remarkable case study, isn't it? This market, it sort of embodies rapid adaptation, shows the real test of supply chain resilience, and offers, crucial lessons in long-term global health planning. It's fascinating.
Okay, let's unpack this then. When we talk about what truly fueled the just explosive growth in the PPE market, the primary driver has got to be the surge in global health crises, right? And the focus on infectious disease preparedness.
Exactly.
The COVID-19 pandemic, of course, it didn't just change demand, it just ignited a complete paradigm shift.
Yeah.
It forced this global reevaluation of public health infrastructure.
Totally.
PPE, which was once largely, just in medical settings, suddenly it was everywhere, part of public consciousness and everyday necessity.
And that deep-seated fear of infection, you mentioned it, coupled with mandatory usage regulations that really spurred massive, almost unprecedented procurement.
Right.
What we saw was large-scale procurement by both governments and private healthcare organizations, and crucially, a lot of it was reactive.
Reactive, yeah, scrambling.
Which led to these crazy bidding wars, price spikes. The key insight here is how that initial scramble, while necessary, also created a new kind of market dependency. It's driving an ongoing global push for future readiness now, but one that prioritizes, diversified, resilient supply chains, not just sheer volume.
So it's shifting from reaction to preparation.
Exactly. It's no longer just about reacting. It's about proactively preparing.
That initial response makes sense for the immediate need, but I wonder, did that huge procurement create its own issues later on, like inventory management, waste? But anyway, beyond the crisis urgency, what role did governments play? They must have been key.
Oh, pivotal. That push for future readiness is fundamental, you're right. But governments, yeah, they were absolutely central. Organizations like the WHO, the CDC, various national health agencies, they didn't just react.
They set standards.
Yes, they introduced strict regulations around PPE standards and usage, which basically created a baseline of demand. And beyond that, financial backing, exemptions on imports, incentives for local manufacturing. Those were critical in scaling production so dramatically. These frameworks, regulatory and financial, they really laid the groundwork for the market's continued expansion well beyond the peak crisis.
And it wasn't just healthcare or government rules, was it? Did the data show any surprising industries jumping into the PPE surge? Did it go beyond the expected?
Yeah, that's actually a surprising takeaway. How industries beyond traditional healthcare, think retail, food processing, manufacturing, construction.
Yeah, right. Everyday workplaces.
Exactly. They've embedded PPE usage into their, everyday operations. Whether you're a warehouse worker or delivering food, PPE is now seen as a permanent part of workplace safety.
Not just temporary.
Not a temporary measure. It's a fundamental shift. I mean, think about it. The sheer volume of masks needed daily in just one large food processing plant now. It's probably equivalent to what a small hospital might have used pre-pandemic.
Wow.
It shows this quiet revolution happening across different sectors.
But of course, growth like that fast, it inevitably brings complications. I imagine navigating things like Raw material costs and supply chains must have been incredibly tough, right?
Absolutely. We saw concrete examples during the pandemic's peak. Prices for essential materials like polypropylene,
For the masks?
yeah, crucial for that melt-blown layer in N95s,
Mhm.
and nitrile rubber for gloves, they just spiked
Yeah.
dramatically.
Okay.
And this wasn't just about higher costs. It exposed these critical single points of failure in the global material supply chain.
Like of relying too much on one place.
Exactly. The heavy reliance on specific regions, particularly China and India, made it incredibly difficult to ensure stable raw material flows, especially when export restrictions kicked in. It created a real bottleneck.
Yeah, I remember that. And beyond the supply logistics, just seeing single-use masks littered everywhere during the pandemic, it really hammered home that point about environmental waste. That's become a growing concern too, hasn't it?
It really has. And this brings up a big question for sustainability. Single-use masks, gloves, gowns, they've contributed significantly to global pollution. It's sparked alarm among environmentalists.
Understandably.
And it's especially concerning in places like Europe and North America, where you have stricter ecological regulations now prompting a real reevaluation of how PPE is made and, importantly, disposed of.
So pushing for greener options.
Exactly. Pushing for more sustainable alternatives. It's a complex problem, though balancing that immediate protection with long-term ecological health.
And finally, a big challenge that kind of emerges from that initial success. Market saturation. Sounds like a good problem, maybe, but still a problem.
Yeah, looking at the bigger picture, as the world shifted, from pandemic to endemic COVID-19 conditions, that urgency around PPE procurement started to fade.
Naturally.
So governments and health organizations that stockpiled PPE like crazy in 2020 and 2021, they're now sitting on surplus inventory.
Right, warehouses full of it.
And market saturation isn't just about surplus. It highlights the challenge of forecasting demand post-crisis, and that tricky balance between national self-sufficiency and relying on global supply chains. Plus, the availability of reusable PPE, that's also played a role in softening demand. This whole post-pandemic normalization, combined with less government spending, it's definitely put downward pressure on overall market growth.
Okay. But on a more optimistic note, despite these very real challenges, there are some really innovative trends shaking up the industry's future. Let's start with intelligent and tech-enabled PPE. That sounds pretty futuristic.
It certainly feels like it sometimes. What really stands out is the evolution from just basic protection to, well, smart solutions.
Like what kind of things?
We're seeing innovations like smart masks with built-in air filters, maybe voice amplification,
Yeah.
and IoT tracking.
IoT tracking in a mask.
Yeah, essentially embedding tiny sensors that collect and transmit data, maybe on air quality, maybe even a wearer's vital signs. These are particularly suited for healthcare, obviously, and high-risk industrial settings.
Okay, makes sense.
And beyond masks, think antimicrobial coatings, temperature sensors, Bluetooth-enabled wearables. They're not just protecting users anymore. They're enabling data-driven safety insights.
Giving us a whole new level of understanding and control.
Precisely.
That's incredible. And another key trend, which speaks directly to those challenges we just discussed, is the big shift towards sustainable and reusable PPE.
Yes, and this aligns directly with those environmental concerns we talked about. Companies are heavily investing in things like biodegradable materials, washable fabrics, things that significantly reduce waste and fit with environmental goals.
Where is this happening most?
Europe and North America are especially active here. We're seeing certifications for eco-safety becoming really key differentiators, both for consumers and for institutional buyers.
So it's becoming expected.
It's a clear signal that sustainability isn't just nice to have anymore. It's a competitive advantage and a growing expectation.
And finally, there's this really strategic pivot happening in the supply chains themselves, kind of born out of the lessons learned the hard way.
Yeah, stepping back, the pandemic exposed the fragility of global PPE supply chains in really stark terms, just how vulnerable they were. So this has prompted governments and companies to prioritize domestic production, localization, manufacturing diversification. They're gaining significant momentum.
We're bringing it closer to home.
Exactly. We're also seeing more participation from small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, getting involved, and strong public-private partnerships, too.
All aimed at being better prepared next time.
All aimed at ensuring a more resilient, more agile response system for future health emergencies. It's really about building a better, more secure foundation for whatever comes next.
Wow, what a journey. I mean, from its sudden explosion into our lives, driven by a global emergency, through all those unexpected hurdles of supply and waste, to now, where innovation is literally embedding intelligence into our protection.
It really is something.
This deep dive truly shows how a seemingly simple product can reflect this complex interplay of global health, economics, and sustainability.
So what does this all mean for you, listening? As we look ahead, how will that balance between global preparedness, economic efficiency, and environmental responsibility continue to shape the future of something as fundamental as personal protection,
Yeah.
especially in our increasingly interconnected world?
Yeah.
And what kind of ongoing innovation might you expect to see as a result of all this? Something to think about.
Fantastic questions to ponder. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the personal protective equipment market. Stay safe, stay informed.